Hey, welcome to Everything You Love, episode 35, featuring a Q&A with the great Andols Herrick. Now, this is going to be a unique video due to some unusual circumstances. Long story short, our first attempt at a Zoom chat fell through for various reasons, and then our second attempt was just plagued with technical issues. The internet wasn't cooperating, the audio wasn't cooperating, the video quality was just unusable, and many hours were wasted. And we've both done Zoom chats in the past without any issues, but this one, for whatever reason, was just doomed from the get-go, and we could not make it happen. The whole point of it was to just catch up and discuss our new album Magnitude, which came out in December of 22. I collected a handful of questions from my Patreon community that I was prepared to ask Andols, plus my own questions, because believe it or not, he and I have not discussed the album at all since he recorded his tracks back in 2013. Even now, after it's finished and out there, we still haven't really had a chance to talk about it. And that's something I was really looking forward to. But because I was determined to make this video happen one way or another, we took things back to basics, and I ended up sending him the questions via email. And then he took his time answering the questions in writing and then sent them back to me, old school style. Now, as you hear and see these questions, I'm gonna pop in from time to time and offer my own perspective and memories and explanations throughout the video. And part of that's because Andols and I have been friends for a really long time. We met when we were 15, 16, and hung out just all the time in high school. We had our band Sanctum, and we were writing and recording and gigging with that band. Plus we had the same group of friends. So I totally get his sense of humor and, dare I say, at times, superhuman intellect. But I fear that there will be times where maybe you guys won't quite understand things because he uses a lot of inside jokes and references things that, again, you may not understand with no point of reference. So as necessary, I'm gonna comment and break things down, and I'll have visuals and video from him in the studio while he was recording his tracks for Magnitude, and it should be pretty great. This is one of those videos that I couldn't wait to start working on every morning over the past week. So without any further ado, here is my Q&A with Andols Herrick, conducted via email that I've transformed into video format that I hope you'll all enjoy.
Greetings, my friends. I am thoroughly disappointed in the Andols dim Mac, Death Touch, that caused hours of attempts to make the video conversation happen. I hope to share my world in 2022, not the 2020 version originally seen in a previous interview. Until then, I apologize to everyone for the calamities preventing the conversation I was looking forward to. And to anyone who has no idea who I am, just call me Andols, retired musician and former Chimera drummer. Now, on to the questions.
Which drums did you use on the recording of Magnitude? Also, what are your favorite drumsticks?
Thank you for asking an answerable question, because I will never remember if my floor tom was tuned to G or G flat when we played Albuquerque in 2006, as an example of questions slightly exaggerated. LOL. As for my drum kit, I received a beautiful kit from Crush Drums, which I now realize I forget the model's name, so I'll pretend it is the Andols Signature Series. While it never graced the stage or may never be shown off, I used it for numerous session projects between 2011 and 2013, when, in that October, I moved from Cleveland to Las Vegas. I made a trip back to Cleveland that December, and Rob approached me with the idea of playing the drums on Magnitude, and of course I was game. As I was already living in Las Vegas, sans drum kit, preparing meant writing charts for each tune, like in the pictures you'll see here, and trying to mimic movements by air drumming, as I tried to develop enough muscle memory.
Okay, so what Andols is trying to say here, in case it isn't clear, is that after I initially sent him the batch of songs that I had written for Magnitude, he just had to listen to them because he didn't have a drum set in Las Vegas with him, so he didn't have a chance to write his parts on a kit and rehearse them. He had to write everything in his head, and then he charted all of his parts and notes on paper that he then brought to Cleveland with him. And the first time he struck a single note for magnitude was when he sat down in the kit in the live room there to actually track his performances. And he would just reference his paper there on his music stand. That's pretty impressive if you ask me, and I think it shows a sign of a true professional and legend at work, and just a great musician that can do something like that. And throughout the rest of the interview, there's a few times where he's going to mention that he kind of felt underprepared throughout the whole process because of this, and respectively so. But you know, I don't think he sounded underprepared, as I think his tracks came out splendidly. And it's probably just a case of a perfectionist being hard on himself, if you know what I mean. And there's something I need to correct Andals on here, and that is that he in fact did not use his Crush kit for the recording of Magnitude. But I understand the confusion because it was there in the room with him the entire time. He instead used the famous Chimera Pearl Masters custom kit that has a ton of history. It was first bought by the band in 2004 for Ricky Evanson, when Ricky was our touring drummer during the later half of the Impossibility of Reason tour cycle. And then during the self-titled era, Kevin Talley ended up using it for some touring, and maybe even on the record. That's something that I can't remember. But then it was definitely used again by Andals for the Resurrection recording, which you can see in great detail in our Resurrection documentary. I don't think it did a lot of Resurrection touring, maybe a little bit, but at that time, Andals got like a Tay kit, T-A-Y-E, before he got his Crush endorsement. But then it was also used by Austin Diamond for all of the Elite stuff, the World War III EP and our Total Destruction CD, and then finally used for Magnitude here. So a lot of history with this kit. It's cool, and I still got it sitting right over there.
Setting up your drum set is always a pain in the ass, because you do one thing, change one thing into a position you like, and then 17 things you don't want happen because of it. Drummer problems.
All right, here we go. About to get started getting tones. Andals is back in there.
Favorite sticks? Prior to having my own signature sticks, I swore by our heads to bees and their design from preventing carpal tunnel. Being a player and later a drum teacher, I was always a technique-oriented drummer, despite my wonderful bandmates' constant desire for me to hit like I was Barry Bonds while juiced to the gills. The irony was that simply turning a couple knobs on their amps for extra volume was all it took. Meanwhile, a drum set lacking amplification and futile attempts explaining that a drum can only be a certain volume fell on deaf ears. It was the new metal peak and drummers were supposed to go off. I'm proud to say I never relented. Science and physics are not set in stone, but valid arguments backed by peer-reviewed research could refute my statement, or that breaking cymbals and drum heads is awesome, because it isn't. It means your technique is inefficient and you have to keep buying replacements. So yeah, I credit those sticks with attenuating some wrist pain I had started developing. Ironically, I developed wrist and finger pain from typing for work, because I never learned the proper technique.
Do you have a favorite beat on the album? And if so, which one?
My favorite beat on the album? There were some parts in Assassin and Conscious Shock I thought came out pretty awesome despite the way I created my parts. Drives me crazy to know if we recorded it before I moved, every tune would have had opportunities to incorporate all the new tricks I had learned post Chimera. Oh, and the intro to the album, I'm still not sure if that was me falling over my drum kit or an actual thing, but that's another favorite.
Okay, so what Andols is talking about right there with the intro of the album and falling over his kit, not knowing what was going on and stuff, the album starts with what I'm calling one of his signature fills. But originally when I had written the song, I started the song with a guitar riff, and then he came in a couple measures later with that beat. But after the fact, long after he had recorded, I decided to change the riff completely and have him start the song with that same fill, and then I would come in with the guitar, and it was a different riff. So he has no idea that that's what I did. That's why it doesn't really make sense to him when he's hearing this, because he has no idea. And if he watches this video, he'll understand the explanation now. But for anybody that's interested in hearing it, I'll play that original demo version for you with the different guitars at the end of this video, so stick around for that if you'd like to check it out.
Would it ever be on the table to have some vocals put to any of these songs? They're badass as they are, but sometimes I just anticipate vocals kicking in.
For example, when you see a song charted like in the picture of my notes for Prototype, it's arranged like a common and logical arrangement: intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, which could be doubled, or finished with a proper beat down outro. The idea is that, regardless of the structure, an instrumental band's challenge is to replace the vocal melody with something memorable. A lot of artists have albums they release with and without vocals as well. Not all of it is written where vocals would fit, because it depends. I'm currently going through a major instrumental artist kick. Plenty of recommendations include Animals as Leaders, Outrun the Sunlight, which I'm listening to as I type, Intervals, and I Built the Sky, as a few examples. I've been really big on instrumental prog metal for years. Quick trivia. My older brother once corrected me over the use of the word song. When you have a master's in music from Juilliard for percussion, you are a grandmaster. A song is only a song if it has lyrics. If there are no vocals, then it's a tune or piece. Free lesson. He knows more than myself, you, and most of humanity about percussion. New hobby, savant in 24 hours. My first inspiration as a drummer and musician. I always say I'm the third best drummer between my two brothers, and the fourth best Chimera drummer because it's true.
Right.
Do you have any favorite standout tracks or moments on the album?
Hard to say. The whole album flows so well that it feels like one awesome track, kind of like Dream Theater's A Change of Seasons. 23 minutes of perfection.
You always have a uniquely insightful perspective on things, so I want to know what you would want Rob's community to know about working with Rob, that he probably wouldn't say himself.
When you go back to 1996, we gelled immediately, though we had different personalities. Me, an introvert, who internalizes things, and Rob, who is always like the king of getting me, or most people, involved in shenanigans. He almost cost me my parking privileges when he was a junior in high school, and me a senior. Yeah, we butted heads on Chimera stuff, every band does. But I love the guy, and all those guys. I haven't seen Rob or any of our friends in well over 5 years, and it sucks. But it's also been amazing watching everyone live life, start families, and still be the same people.
So real quick here, Andols mentioned that I almost cost him his parking privileges in high school, and I wanted to elaborate on that. He was a senior and he had parking privileges, and I was still a junior and I still had to take the bus to school. And I had the bright idea of removing his parking pass, which was stuck onto his front window, with a razor blade. And I thought we could take it to like a Kinko's or an Office Max somewhere to get it photocopied so that I can make a copy of it and put it in my window. So I talked him into it. We went up to one of those places, and as soon as we handed it to them and said we'd like a copy of this made, they sensed something fishy was up right away. They confiscated it, and then the next day they called the school and reported him based on the information from the parking pass. Andols was furious, of course, and he ended up getting called down to the office. But somehow he talked his way out of it. I still don't know how, and he got his parking privileges back, and all is good. I, of course, had to wait till the next year to get mine. So anyways, I'm still sorry about that, Andols. Sorry that you trusted me, but thanks for trusting me.
Is Rob hard or easy to work with?
When Rob's writing a song, I imagine he hears certain drum parts. But when guys like him have access to drum machine software, and the ability to program 3000 BPM double bass drum parts for 5 minutes straight, or even the unique way he had of explaining a fill he wanted, sometimes it took a while. If I had a vision that could be heard in a recorded way he would understand. I was never an off-the-cuff player. I would deeply internalize every note methodically, hence why I tracked with just a click. I remember one time we were writing something, and at one point he said he imagined a certain fill he wanted me to play. I said, I get what you have in mind, but since those things take time to create, I'm just going to play a basic fill for 4 bars as a place filler to see if that transition would work. But this is going to be absolutely nothing like what I would actually create. So we then proceed with the idea, and I do exactly what I said I was going to do, play something generic, to see if it was going to work theoretically. He then hesitates for a couple of seconds and says something like, I was expecting something, not that unimpressive. I wonder if he remembers that one. LOL.
Practice that one more time. All right, you got it.
Was there anything different you wanted to do on Magnitude? Or was there anything you passed over from Chimera to this album? Did you try different styles or techniques? What challenges did you face when recording this album?
I know I would have done so much more, and put the new things I practice to use, had I more time to prepare. The same goes with Chimera albums, so many things that I'm like, damn it, but they would have been vetoed anyways. LOL. The challenge of writing an album with notes and charts, and trying to imagine, versus being able to spend hours behind a kit crafting every note, is tremendous. It came about rather quickly, as I had only moved 3 months prior, and the idea was put in motion after. I was living 2,000 miles away, but we got it done. I think I finished my parts and flew out the next day, but the finished product still came out awesome, irrespective of the obstacles.
It's clear there is a great chemistry between you both even with different styles. How was creating this album different from earlier works? Was it more freeing working outside the Chimera brand, or more challenging?
It was challenging due to the reasons I've mentioned, but things definitely felt more open to my interpretations. I'd say more so than much of the Chimera stuff, and this was Rob's project. Just like the session work I did in between, I wanted to make his vision come to life the best I could. My only regret was not having the opportunity to do so much more. I did my best while never feeling fully confident. I was never able to turn the ideas in my head into muscle memory.
In your opinion, are there a couple mustache riffs on Magnitude? In my humble opinion there are a couple, and I truly love them, but I am a mustache man after all. P.S. I'm just asking to troll Rob a bit because he brought up the mustache riffs thing in Everything You Love episode 34.
LOL. Well played, sir. Definitely connection. The second I heard it, I immediately thought, there's that RA mustache riff.
You know, I'd play a riff for Andols, and if Andols didn't like it, he'd call it a mustache riff. And he was making fun of me like it's having something to do with my mustache. I don't know what, like one of Rob's mustache riffs.
What emotions or thoughts come up now that the final product is complete? And Rob, if you were to ever tour this album, who would you want as your band to play live, or would you play solo to the tracks?
Definitely a lot. The highest of the highs to lowest of the lows. There are so many personal attachments surrounding this exact time frame. 9 years is a long time. The happiest time of my life, years of difficulties, finally coming out of personal hell but not all there yet. Reminder of the version of me that I miss. Not to sound completely negative, of course. I'm proud of the final product and what I was able to do without actually practicing in advance.
As for my part of the question there, trust me, I would absolutely love to bring the Magnitude music live to the stages one day, and my dream would be to have Andols behind me on the kit. But that's step number one. If we're able to make that happen, we'll then begin seeking out the perfect musicians to join us, and hopefully all the chips will fall into place.
I am curious to know what Andols' favorite song was for Chimera, a song he loved drumming to. I secretly hope he says Pleasure and Pain, or No Reason to Live, or Comatose.
I am about to crush your hopes, though the songs you mentioned are all bangers, of course. My answer would be Implements of Destruction and 6.
Whoa, all right. So that's it. Next up is the demo version of Brontosaurus, as promised, to close things out. And like I mentioned, due to the circumstances, this thing took me an absolute ton of time to put together. So if you've made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Please consider hitting that like button for me, or the super thanks button, or the join button, and most certainly the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And if you have the ability and you're interested in supporting at an even greater level, please check out my Patreon campaign, which offers behind the scenes looks, early looks at my videos, guitar tabs, and so much more. If you're a guitar player, definitely check out my guitar instructional DVD, free worldwide shipping, autograph, free guitar picks, and make sure you grab Magnitude from Andols and I. There's a link below with where to stream it and where to get a CD, as well as links to everything I've mentioned, DVD, Patreon, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Appreciate you. Cheers.